What's up guys, welcome back to another video. Hope you're all doing well today. We are back on some MX bikes, and as we all know, we're waiting on the old two-stroke OEM pack to be re-released with updated physics and such. And I know I personally was a big fan of some of the old two-strokes, whether it was the old RM 125 or the old 1996 Honda 125 or 252 strokes. Now, I think my favourite looking bike ever is some of the old school Kawasaki two-strokes. I'm not sure what it is about them. They are very, very attractive to me. And for the longest time, I didn't think that there was a legit one in the game. I know there's some ripped ones here and there, like part of the CDMX pack and Alpha mods and whatever. So I could have quite easily just ridden one limb again, but I'm trying to stay clear of all that sort of content on this game. However, I was having a look through Discord, as I do most days, seeing what's about, seeing what's popping, what new drama there is on the scene. And one of my very own moderators on the Lynn's YouTube channel, Mr. Dio's Ghost, said that he was doing a whole bunch of digging through the forums and found some really, really old bikes. So what you see in front of you is a 1996 KX125, released back in 2016 on the forums, which I don't think ever got posted to MXB mods, so I'd be quite surprised if a lot of the people watching this are aware of it. I mean, some of the OG guys probably know, but I know a lot of people these days are kind of newer to the game within the last couple of years or so. So back in 2016 by Mr. Paco Pasta. That's Pastor, P-A-S-T-O-R, by the way, not pasta as in the Italian cuisine. And so that's exactly what we're going to use. You can see, unfortunately, because of how the tyres work with various bikes on this game, we are going to have the really bad cummy tyres, as I like to refer to them, where they just get covered in white. Luckily for us, we play in first person, so it doesn't matter until I crash anyway. Now, I can tell you straight off the bat already, this thing does feel like a 125 in terms of how slow it is. There's a few bikes on this game, like especially if we refer back to those like Alpha Mods bikes as well. We have the 85cc pack. They're not 85cc engines. A lot of the time they're like 125 engines or sometimes even higher. So they never feel like they have as much power as they should. Well, they don't feel like they have as little power as they should do. They always feel like way faster than they should. So to have this KX125 that already feels like a bit on the slow side, so I am going to have to try and absolutely rag it around the track to get it going as fast as I want it to. It's nice, fairly refreshing, because there's not really too many bikes on this game that you can ride hard. If that makes sense, like the 450s you've got to be shutting off a whole bunch, the 250s you can ride hard, it's kind of like easy mode, if that makes sense, where a lot of time you just hold right trigger and turn and that's it, it doesn't really fight you back at all. So I'm hoping that this KX125 could do the job for me, and I can see already, I guarantee that since I've said the word ride hard twice, I'm sure someone's left a comment saying like hee hee or something along those lines, trying to be a little bit dirty, a little bit rude. You know what I mean. You know that I didn't mean it in that way. I thought that we'd try out the dog pound again. I noticed that it's like I had someone comment on the video I originally done on this, saying that it's not called the Hunter like compound or the Hunter brothers. And at first I thought that I just had a slip of the tongue during the video, which I quite often do. You know, when you live commentate these things and you're trying to concentrate on playing the game and talking at the same time, it's very easy to make mistakes and maybe not pick up on it in the editing process. But what I didn't realise, because I had the chance to play the track early, I completely skimmed over the fact that it's actually called like the Hunter Brothers compound in-game as well. So interesting choice there, and I honestly think the reason that that was done by JV is to avoid any like sense of copyright at all. So you'll find on the store, because they are like paid tracks, to avoid any sort of issues down the line, you can't really use the name of an actual place as such. You'll notice on some of the AMA tracks, mostly like tracks like Washougal for example, where the name of the track is also a location, that's when it's allowed, because you're not really replicating the track's likeness and its identity, you are just saying that, hey, this is a track based on this track which is located here, so you've called it this, and that's how they can kind of get away with it. So I think it was purely a case of JV not wanting to just use the name the Dog Pound or the Lawrence Brothers compound, just to be safe. I know there's probably no drama that could happen there. And I obviously Jet plays Sim, for example. I don't know if Hunter does anything like that. But obviously Jet being a younger kid, he's kind of into his video games as most kids are, so I don't think he'd have a problem with it at all. But you never know, so better to be safe than sorry. If you've been putting off buying that new MX gear, or you're just looking for some new daily MX related clothing, then head on over to fxrracing.com. Code MXPR_Lins15 at checkout will give you 15% off all motocross and lifestyle products. This code is applicable to the European, Swedish and Norwegian websites, and not Canada or the USA. And whilst I've got your attention, you may as well subscribe to the channel. It's just one click of a button and it puts a big old smile on my face. Hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Now apparently there is an identical version of this bike, so like same plastics and everything, but a 250 two-stroke version of it. Unfortunately, on the forum post that this was found on, there used to be a website called like MX Bikes Central, something along those lines, which was an old website ran by TFC. However, back then the community was very, very small, and it got to a point where the website wasn't really worth having about anymore for the amount of stuff that was released. So that's kind of when MXB Mods was created, but because these bikes were never uploaded to mods, I feel like the 250 might be lost to the sands of time, unless one of the OG players in the game still has it in their files somewhere and they can re-upload it. Luckily, in that same forum thread, this bike was re-uploaded and someone posted a new, like a mega link. So that's the only reason that I've got this, and hopefully the reason that you guys get to download it and play it as well. And I really love using like these old school bikes. I know if I'll probably get a slap on the wrist or told off for telling you this information. I know that we are at a point now where some of those older two-stroke machines are starting to be worked on behind the scenes to get ready to be released. I really wish that we still had like easy access to the old ones. I'm sure someone's got a download to them somewhere that I could use and do some videos on. I think I've since deleted all of the old ones from my game, which was a bit of an L move by me, but I never considered at the time that they'd be kind of taken away for good. The only kind of good thing about it all is hopefully when they do come back, they're going to get like the heel fix and things like that, and hopefully feel a little bit more realistic overall. So I'm hopeful for it, that's for sure. But I definitely miss some of the old like fun races that we used to have back in the day. I think it was the third ever race that I'd done on this game was an elimination race on the old CR125. Like everyone had to ride them, and it was such good fun. I really miss stuff like that. I mean, we get a lot of like events held these days for just, you know, generic competitive races that, regardless of the skill level, but you know, they're still like normal 20+ minute motos, wherever they are. You don't really get many fun races or fun events held anymore where it's like elimination races. I don't know what else you do. I have no idea what other sort of events you could hold, but I know Reaper Doc every now does them on some live streams, but for an actual event that you like set a time for, give everyone a track to play, and you say, you know, first 40 people to join the server get to play, everyone else, tough luck, try again next time. Might be a bit more difficult these days with how many people there is playing the game compared to back then, but there were some really fond memories for me. I think the first ever event that I'd done this game was after about 3 days of playing, and it was an elimination race on the Paletta Raceway. I think it might have even been the V2 rather than like the more quote-unquote professional Paletta Raceway 2020, so like the one that all of the Papiti servers run, things like that. It was on that track. And I believe I got eliminated in the first round. And to be fair, I don't think it was even from my own poor riding. I think I really just got unlucky with like bumping into people. Because, you know, your first time racing against people in a game, you never know kind of what like the courtesy's like, or the etiquette, and what you should and shouldn't do, or just how people race you in general. Like these days, most of the time, if I get online into a server, I can see who's in the server, I recognise them, I know how they play the game, I know how to ride around them, and you can kind of avoid people for the most part. But yeah, back then I didn't know that. So the first race I ever done in this game was a massive L, getting knocked out in the first round of an Elim series. Second race I ever done, which was at Dorno, which was also a 125 race, but that was back when the 125s were a bit more overpowered than they are these days. You know, they didn't bog as easily, they had a lot more power. Overall, I think they were just more casual to ride. And basically, the way that I learnt the game back then was I was just using the KTM 125 around the stock Washington track, or Washougal, whichever one you want to refer to it as. But the race itself was 125s around Dorno. So I already knew how to ride the 125 really well, I just had to adjust to a new track. And I actually ended up, I think I'm going to have to try and dig back and look at the live stream now, because I could be quite like remembering this completely wrong. I believe I either came first or second in the first moto, but then really choked in the second one and got like third, so I lost the overall. But that was only after, I want to say, like a week, maybe 2 weeks of playing the game. So I was really, really happy with myself back then. That was against people like Jack and McChicken. So like really good competition. So I was happy, to say the least. Like really, really good times. So I've always got a bit of a soft spot for the two strokes, especially the 125s, and especially for a bike like this, which I find to be very, very attractive. In regards to the model itself, I don't know where it originated. I don't know if Paco made this all from scratch by himself. There wasn't too much information, I don't think, on the page. However, I think it looks like fairly fine. You know, there's no like glaring issues. I'm sure if I went into the replay camera and had a zoom in, I'd probably find something. Only like major thing for me is, at least playing in first person, you see when I lean off the back of the bike, the hands aren't fully onto the grips how you'd want to. But to be fair, even some of the most current up-to-date OEMs have that issue as well. And I mean, you guys know full well that when you go into replay, maybe you're riding around with friends, maybe you've both done a really nice whip next to each other, and as soon as you go and you want to take a nice screenshot, a lot of the time your handlebars are never attached to your hands, and vice versa. You know, it's always a bit funky, but just MX Bikes things. That's why we love it, don't we? Now, I wanted to move over to this like sand turn track, because I thought there's only so many laps of that Nationals track you can run, like you kind of get the gist. But I then realised, because this isn't one of the most recent OEM bikes, it hasn't got updated tyres at all. So although I have the tyre model on the bike, it's just a visual thing. So I'm actually running, I mean, it just says mid-soft in game. You get to choose between soft, mid-soft and hard. So I went for mid-softs. Why, I don't know. It's not based on anything. I think it's purely just because that's what I run on the OEM bikes, but obviously they've been updated with different values to these. And this turn track is sand, if you was unaware. So, and surprisingly, the bike doesn't seem to be losing as much power as I expected it to. And it definitely doesn't seem to be sliding as much as I thought it would as well on sand. So there's something about these old tyres that actually works okay. I believe there was one update at one point where Paboso like fully changed like the stock tyres that come with the game, and like traction was all sorts of boofed and sand tracks were completely broken. But for right now, this moment in time, actually handles it all right, and it really is like, it feels the effects. Like the sand is a little bit sapping and draining, but I suppose at the same time, because of how rough this track is and it hasn't got the longest straights in the world, as I get onto the longest straight, a small bike like this is always going to suffer. I'm sure even if you took the current modern 125s around here, they'd probably struggle a little bit. But I love discovering stuff like this, because it's kind of my job to find things I've not done videos on yet. Which, when you get to a certain point, now where I have over 1,000 videos on this channel, predominantly MX Bikes related, you get to a point where you're like, God damn, what on earth do I cover today? So to kind of be given this kind of bailout by just scrolling through Discord and seeing what people are saying, really, really handy. So thank you so much, Dio. I really do appreciate it. Like, massive W for finding this. And to be fair, I think I need to go digging through the forums a bit myself. There was a period of time where I went looking through like really old tracks that may have not been put onto MXB mods. I think that was when I was researching like playing the oldest custom track in the game video. However, we have exactly this. Well, there was two issues, which kind of relates to this bike as well. Is a lot of the tracks were uploaded to MX Bike Central, so the link for them no longer existed, and I would have no idea who to contact to try and get links to them in the first place. And the second one is, I don't know what beta it was that changed how the game like reads tracks themselves, but I want to say maybe like beta 4 tracks and older, just they don't work in the game anyway. If you try installing something that old and try loading it and playing it, your game just crashes. So that kind of sucks. So I think there's a bunch of tracks out there that are just kind of lost to the sands of time. There's one track that I would have really, really loved to do a video on, but again, I have no idea how I would even go about locating it. And that is, there is a very, very old version of Forest Raceway. I've seen a YouTube video on it. I think there's Mr. Paboso himself, or Snap, one of the two, riding around on the track. It is nothing like the Forest Raceway you and I have come to know and love these days. I would love to get my hands on it, but I think with the release of MX Bikes on Steam, which I believe may have also been when Beta 4 released, that's when Forest got its update. So I can't even revert Steam versions to the old version to get it in my game, because it never existed on Steam. It was purely in the standalone. So if you are someone that somehow, some way manages to still have the Beta 4 standalone version of the game, because I don't think they exist to download anymore, you would have had to have it saved somewhere, please do let me know. And if you have access to that Old Forest track, please do let me know. I would love to play it. Maybe even a chance to play it with you guys in a lobby would be really, really fun. And massive thank you if you do. I'm sure it's a bit of a long shot, but it's me trying to use some of my YouTube powers to reach out, and a lot of the times you guys are way smarter than me anyway, and you know exactly what to do and where to find stuff, so I'm relying on you. Help a brother out. I probably shouldn't have said this late into the video, because usually people click off around the 6 or so minute mark, but if you're still here and you have any idea, I appreciate any help you can give me. So, that is going to do it for me today. Just wanted to show off this lovely little creation by Mr. Paco. I don't think he's about too much in the community these days. I think he does a lot of GP bikes related stuff as well. I've seen his name over there. There was like a Supermoto suit that I used to use back in the day that had his name attached to it too. But that is going to do it from me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you could drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new, I would greatly appreciate it. Have a lovely rest day, whatever you're up to, and go and have a little rip with this 1996 KX125. I guarantee you won't hate it. Catch you guys next time. Peace.